How can you combine storytelling with gameplay? Hi, I'm Daltry Waters and welcome to Game Design Wit. Okay, so in part 1 we went through the basics of flow and synergy in game design, which is critical in understanding multidimensional flow. This is a model I'll use to explain how one can combine storytelling with gameplay. However, if you need to brush up your memory on those two terms, click on the blue pill to view part 1. Don't worry, I'll be here waiting for you, unlike my ex-wife. So let's take a quick sidestep from game design and talk about narrative theory for a couple of minutes. Let's say you're a writer and you're trying to come up with a story about, how about a story about a young boy who wants to do more with his life, but people just keep treating him like crap. Then something bad happens. Oh, what a terrible thing. And the boy is like, I gotta do something. So he starts taking lessons with some old wizard dude and faces a bunch of trials that make him grow and learn. That gives him confidence, makes him feel good about himself. Then a bad guy shows up and the two have to fight. Now the boy has to master all his courage and punch the bad guy in the face. That is either explicitly or metaphorically. Once the punch is delivered, the boy wins. He's no longer a boy, but a man. Capital M man. After that, there's celebration with some wine, music, or maybe some other symbol of victory. So there are many ways to highlight the similarity of this completely unique plot with other well-established stories. But for this video, I'm going to focus on what's known as the story arc. If you were to plot the story's tension on the viewer over time, you'd get something like this. This graph shows that in the beginning, the viewer doesn't feel too tense about what's going on. They're beginning to be enthralled by the plot, because they're still getting to know the characters, lore, and overall theme. Then a bad thing happens that sets the story in motion, which, as you can see from this graph, displays how much more risky things have become. Since viewers have empathy with the characters now, they share that tension. That's when the viewer says, "Oh no, someone should punch that bad guy in the face." The story ramps up the tension, leading to a final confrontation, which is usually when the protagonist faces the antagonist. After the hero wins, the battle is over. As a consequence, tension fades away. The viewer can now relax and enjoy the party with the other characters. Now, what does any of this have to do with games? Well, if you're looking at this graph, you might notice that maybe it looks really similar to something we talked about. Did you get it? Is it flowing through your head right now? So yeah, the story arc and the flow graph are similar in nature because they are in essence describing the user's engagement with their experience. The flow graph displays the user's engagement with the gameplay, while the story arc displays their engagement with the story. Since a game allows one to have both a narrative experience as well as a playful experience, we can combine these two graphs to create this model, which I call Multidimensional Flow. With this, we can explain a lot about a user's behaviors and experiences across games. Let's go over a few examples, starting with Super Meat Boy. So like I discussed on part 1, this game has great flow, but story-wise, it's quite simple. There really isn't a story arc at all, since the plot, Rescue Bandage Girl, remains unchanged throughout the entire game. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Super Meat Boy is a bad game. It just means that there's a level of experience it fails to explore. So how about we look at a game with a bit more depth in its plot, such as Diablo 3. In the beginning of the game, a falling star shows up, which triggers the protagonist to go to New Tristram. On your way, a bunch of zombies wake up to greet the player with friendly hugs. Once reaching the city, you find out that the star fell on a church, because statistically, where else would a shooting star fall on? Once inside, you discover that the star was actually a man with a terrible hangover. You both then head back to the city to find out that there's a witch doing trouble. You chase the witch down, kill her to find out that there's a demon dude now causing trouble. You proceed to chase that demon dude, kill him to find out that Diablo is now causing trouble as well. Meanwhile, you discover that the Starman is Tyrael, an angel, and that he doesn't like to be judged.
You cannot judge me. I am justice itself.
Lastly, you fight Diablo and proceed to punch him in the face. Or her, it's complicated. Meanwhile, you're leveling up, getting better gear, learning new abilities, all in an increasingly set of difficult quests. Putting all this together, story arcs help with building tension, while gameplay helps building flow. But notice a key thing. With the minor exception of the setting, the user's gameplay experience doesn't interact with the story's experience in any significant way. The experience between these two is mostly interleaved. Story then gameplay, gameplay then story. Although they're all fleshed out on their own, you could simply remove the existence of one and not cause any significant impact to the other. You see, games' peculiarity is that they can interweave their gameplay experience with the story, so that the player actions, that is, what they do in the game, becomes part of the narrative in itself, and vice versa. A game with great multidimensional flow is one in which the story and gameplay experience not only blend, but also interact with each other. So which game is a great example of multidimensional flow? Metal Gear Solid, released in 1998, the greatest year in gaming ever, for the PlayStation, redefined not only what the Metal Gear series was, but helped put stealth mechanics into the mainstream. So let's go over some good multidimensional flow cases this game presents. When you meet Otacon, one of your allies in the game, he mentions that to find Meryl, an ally who's also disguised as an enemy soldier, you need to look for a soldier that walks in a peculiar way. But the game is viewed from a top-down perspective, making it hard for you, as a player, to spot such a thing. How would you find someone with a peculiar gait then? With synergy. You see, previously the game taught you to use your binoculars to view the game from the first person. You can also do this with a dedicated button. This was useful when the player attempted to figure out how to progress through Shadow Moses, where their game is set. But in first person, you can also inspect the enemy soldiers, meaning you can use this technique to solve the puzzle the narrative presented. It's with synergy that games are able to bridge the chasm between a game's story and its gameplay, since it allows one to interact with the other by leveraging a concept they've learned previously in the other realm. Here's another example. You can use cigarettes to detect alarms in the game, but you're told that cigarettes are bad for your health, so you shouldn't use them. Although this may sound like the developers were trying to dodge criticism from angry parents, this is actually the game explaining why your in-game health would decrease if you smoke. Or how about when you're being interrogated and a button smash challenge is presented to you? The player must then choose to A. Continuously press a button to survive, B. Die without a save point, or C. Give up. If the player forfeits, you can keep playing the game, but Meryl dies in the end of the game. This is a clever case of the game's narrative being dependent on the player's skill. There's no easy way out of it. If the player wishes to save Meryl, they must endure the torture of the buttons smashing themselves. Another example is Master Miller, a character you could frequently interact with via radio. In the beginning, he gives you various tips about how to progress through Shadow Moses. Later on, he'll start hinting that the player shouldn't trust the other characters he's been interacting with over radio so far. Here the game presents a choice. Who do you believe in? Although not explicitly stated in the gameplay, the player can choose which character they can interact with the most, allowing him or her to construct their own narrative. Then, when you finally realize Master Miller is Liquid Snake, the main antagonist, your mind is officially blown, especially if you're siding with Miller, which totally happened to me when I first played Metal Gear. The key concept of multidimensional flow is that with synergy, one can overcome either a major period of tension in the plot, or a breakthrough in learning a new gameplay mechanic. As the interaction between these two layers of experience unfolds, they combine to create a net effect greater than what each individual part could provide otherwise. I hope that with this two-part video series, you'll be able to understand not only how, but also why flow, synergy, and storytelling can come together in games. If you look at games with engaging stories and fun gameplay that stood the test of time, you see that they've exercised a trick or two of multidimensionality in flow. So, drop a comment below on which games you think are awesome examples of multidimensional flow, because I'd love to read them. Also, I got videos on Minecraft, esports, analytics, Street Fighter, and even board games coming along, so make sure to subscribe. Didn't see something on this list you'd like me to talk about? Drop a comment below suggesting what you'd like me to analyze. Thanks for watching, see you next time.
Wait, what? You were Liquid Snake all along? Et tu, Brute? Man, I'm gonna punch you in the face like a boss. Or should I say big boss?